You got one! Well, let's get this show on the road. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Torn Tuesday, your weekly dose of all things Tolkien. We're here to give you the news on all the latest movies, toys, merch, TV shows, soundtracks, books, and whatnot. And we've been doing this. It said at the top of that show, it said episode 661. How many years is that, Cliff? 661 divided by 12 is
divided by 52 per year.
Oh,
do you want to do some quick math?
Yeah.
Let's do a little bit of quick math since wait, you said 662, right?
661.
Okay, let's try that. Oh goodness. Divided by 56. No, it's it's 56 weeks in a year, right?
52 weeks in a year.
See, I'm crazy pants when I'm like this. Divided by 52. That would be 12 years, 0.7.
You're my longest relationship, Cliff.
I know that is hilarious. You've got to stop with that joke, but you know what? It's funny because it's true. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Torn Tuesday. It is very much my distinct pleasure to have your viewership and your companionship and your intellectual creativity. You guys are the best fans in all of the fandoms, outpacing Star Trek, Star Wars, anime, and baseball. Of all the fans that I love, you guys are the best fans, the Tolkien fans. And of course, I'm saying this because, the Dodgers are in the World Series. Wow. And anyways, it's really exciting to have Justin here. That's him, Justin Sewell. And allow me a very brief introduction. I can't talk English, probably. Introduction. I'm trying out funny, strange accents that make no bloody sense. My name is Clifford, and I'm here again to join you on this remarkable Tuesday afternoon. Wow, lots of news, lots of excitement, but we're going to begin the show.
We're
going to begin the show with
what LA ComicCon was like. You just saw a bunch of fans at LA ComicCon were showing what they gave out at LA ComicCon, posters and pins. Tell me all about what happened this week.
Tera, do you know what? There's no merch at all for the Rings of Power, unfortunately. But be that as it may, we have our first beautiful merch for the War of the Rohirrim. Do you see this?
Hold that up.
The lead character, Tera. She's going to be our lead character, and this is one of these beautiful cloison pins. These are so fabulous. This is a painted, embossed enamel on metal. Beautiful pin. And I don't know, are you a Disney pin collector? There's a couple of folks out there. I have some interesting pins. One of my favorites is my D20. This is my big nerd D20 pin. I wear this at official nerd gatherings. And so they had a wonderful booth where they were giving away War of the Rohirrim pins. And for our show today, we're going to commemorate our show and our conversation about LA ComicCon by me putting this pin on. And boy, Los Angeles Comic-Con was super cool. It is such a relaxing, fun, and very accessible event. It doesn't have any of the logistics problems that you find continually at San Diego Comic-Con. No logistical problems, no maneuverability problems. You can get to the main stage, you can get to the gaming tables, wonderful open gaming tables. Right down there is Artists Alley, meet and greet with fabulous artists, and there's merch everywhere. The cosplay is out of control. Wonderful cosplay at LA Comic-Con because they have a big, spacious glass atrium, which is the main entrance to the world-famous Los Angeles Convention Center. And I'm telling you, that glass atrium, because of the daylight, which is continually flooding the space in all directions, the best way to describe it is the world's largest solarium. Look it up. One of my favorite words in the dictionary. It's a solarium the size of Montana. It's huge. It's
That's
beautiful.
great.
And the
Anything?
cosplayers are beautiful Sunday afternoon. We got ourselves together with wonderful staffers, volunteer staffers from the OneRing.net, including Garfe Mao, Kathy Udoch, and Nancy Steinman, Nicole, and Christy, and myself. And we all got up there and did this big 1 hour, 20-minute lengthy conversation about all things happening in the world of the Lord of the Rings and Tolkien. Boy, it was a very well attended, large convention room. And our presentation was lengthy, lots of meat and potatoes, intense discussions. And we talked about the new poetry collection, the collected works of J.R.R. Tolkien's poetry. We talked about the video games and the wonderful new Tales of the Shire that's coming out next March. And we got into a really great discussion about the War of the Rohirrim. And I'm telling you, I revealed an exclusive that had not been revealed anywhere else in the world until that day. In front of our beautiful attendees at our panel, I told the world that I am lucky enough to be getting an exclusive interview coming up soon with the director of War of the Rohirrim, Kenji Kamiyama. And we're going to have an exclusive interview with him appearing on the main page of the OneRing.net very soon, obviously before the release of this extraordinary motion picture, which comes out on December 13th, right ahead of the holiday timeframe. And then we did a big, detailed breakdown and a summary of all the amazing things we learned and saw in season 2 of The Rings of Power. But we did give a spoiler warning. Oh, wait, where'd your microphone go, Mr. Justin? Are you still there?
Oh yeah, sorry
Right.
about that.
There you
Yeah,
are.
and
There you are.
we'll dive into episode 8 on the back half of the show. But Cliff, just briefly, what was the pulse of fandom since you were at a convention the week
Yeah.
that the finale aired? So what's the pulse of fandom on Rings of Power right now?
The pulse of fandom on Rings of Power is this is really exciting. And some of the people were given a choice to leave because we were spoiling all things. And we had a decent number of people who are so locked into the show, they said, thank you for not spoiling it for us. And they were able to back out of the room and leave and not have it spoiled. The other people who did stay were really energized, and they really loved talking about this is this and that is that, and what works and what doesn't work. And everybody seemed to have a really, really fairly open mind for everything that we said about the show that we loved. Clapping, applause, shouts of approval, and all the things where we critiqued the show and said, this is not quite working in the narrative. The same amount of laughter, applause, whooping and hollering. So, I got a really egalitarian feeling about it from this audience. They were ready to get into the details because nobody was being caustic about it and unnecessarily mean about it, but we were having a real honest parlay about things that work and things that don't work. And the audience was riveted. Great audience. And I gotta say, I love our little Los Angeles Comic-Con. It is so easy breezy and fun to attend. The people who came into our panel in outrageously beautiful Lord of the Rings cosplay was off the scale. If I only had taken some decent pictures, everybody else was taking photos, but not me. The young lady walked in as Goldberry. She runs and operates a bridal shop in Eagle Rock, right here in Los Angeles. And it's a specialty bridal shop that has all geeky, nerdy bridal gowns and outfits. So if you want to dress in your wedding as Arwen or Galadriel or Miranda Otto's wonderful character Eowyn, or if there's something from another fantasy or nerdy enterprise, then you want to be that for your wedding, then she gave me the lowdown on her wonderful bridal shop. And I'm telling
Well,
you,
Cliff,
people were
can you
energized.
believe
It
there
was
were
great.
announcements online during your panel? There was breaking news, and
There
unfortunately,
was.
I
Oh
wasn't able
gosh,
to be there. You know how much I love breaking news on you. I would have absolutely broken the
you would
news at the
have.
panel.
Right in the middle of the panel. Yeah, no, we had a very regimented panel presentation. Then I'm going to say tip of the hat to you, Nancy Steinman, who stayed up till 4 in the morning working on that keynote presentation. She worked so hard on that. So uh, I owe you a drink, Nancy Steinman, for being amazing. The details that she put in the keynote was fabulous. But
Well,
yeah, the breaking news did happen. Let's
let's
do
get
it.
into
Let's do that.
some of the exclusives that were announced during the panel
Let's do
that we
that.
didn't. Wow, my face is. I don't know what's going on in my face. Zoom just did an update. I just want to say, Zoom did an update today.
Is it
So,
weird?
as you know, the last few weeks we've had some technical glitches here and there. Well, Zoom did a big update, and now things are broken, and I don't know what's going on with my face. Anyway, these were the posters and the booth. A wonderful, simple
Oh,
booth. Cliff, was the War of the Rohirrim booth just a small little 10 by 10 square? This wasn't like a giant Weta Workshop breathing dragon thing.
no. No, it was a perfect little outlet where people could pick up these gorgeous enamel pins and a mini map of Middle Earth. It was really awesome.
All right. Well, what was the thing that was announced was Daniel Falconer posted on his Facebook page a preview of the art of the Lord of the Rings War of the Rohirrim. You don't need to see my face.
Oh,
You want to
oh
see the
gosh.
artwork.
He blew up my Instagram with this, and I was like, holy moly, Daniel Falconer, you put this together? I was so surprised to see this, and yet this is absolutely appropriate for him, who's working behind the scenes at Weta and doing these amazing designs, working with the production. I was just so glad to see him announce this book. And cheers to you, Daniel Falconer. I cannot wait to get my hands on this. It's going to be great.
They've got creative exploration of Helm Hammerhand. Of course, the namesake of Helm's Deep that you see in the Two Towers. Helm Hammerhand. This is the man. This is the legend.
Yeah,
This is
absolutely.
Meduseld, who where you will remember from the Two Towers, of course. Wormtongue is thrown down those stairs. So, what does Meduseld look like at the peak of Rohan's civilization?
Do you know
These are
how
just
amazed I am by that particular shot? Because it shows like the Milky Way galaxy in this beautiful nighttime sky. That is one of my favorite backgrounds that I have seen from this film. It's just wonderful. It's great.
I'm telling you, Cliff, this movie is going to be something special. Like I know a
It's
lot of
so
people are
gorgeous.
turned off by the idea of anime, and the like. I just know that
No, no, no,
there's
no, no. They're not turned off. Why would anybody be naturally turned off by the idea of anime? Our Tolkien fandom began in 1977, the year of Star Wars, with an anime of The Hobbit, and it captured the imagination of the whole wide world. Have been into it since days of yore. Trust me on that. Trust
Cliff.
me on that.
Come on, let's be honest. Return of the
I
King
am.
anime or the original Bakshi Lord of the Rings has a place and time, but it has no cultural relevancy here. The Hobbit
That was an
is what
American
your
production.
grandparents
I'm not
watched
talking
and what
about
your
the
parents watch.
Nope.
Cartoon Lord
It's
of the Rings is a risk.
Gen X here. Absolute full voiced Gen X telling you the generational truth. It's not my grandfather's Hobbit, and you cannot mention Ralph Bakshi. That was not a Japanese production. Let's not confuse things. I'm talking about the Japanese anime made by Topcraft
That was not
in
an anime.
1977.
That was an American production that they
the
hired
characters were
anime.
designed in America,
It was
and
not.
the animators in Japan
No
worked
one
on it.
considers The Hobbit an
Arthur
anime.
Arthur Rankin Jr. made many trips from Manhattan production
I know
offices
where it was
to
made.
Japan,
We
and
know-
he went and worked with the animators at Topcraft Studio. It was an entirely Japanese animated production.
But it was not
Entirely
an anime.
Japanese
it was,
animated.
I
It was an
disagree.
anime. Yes,
Okay.
it was. Okay, all right. Do
All
you
right.
think that the Thundercats TV show was anime? Because that was the same Japanese animation.
We're
company.
getting off
That
topic.
no,
Let's
this
just
is
stick to this book.
it.
That
It all
Daniel
counts as
Falconer,
anime to me. All right,
Tera,
listen,
daughter of Helm,
we can debate this.
has a 2-page spread. This looks wonderful. She has so many outfits, even in the trailers that we've seen, and we've had 2 trailers, a Japanese trailer
Yeah.
and an American trailer, and she has many different outfits. This is the War Elephant. Stunning work. I believe
Oh
some of this
wow,
is
that's so
John
cool.
Howe. I believe
That is so cool.
some of the elephant sketches were Alan Lee and John Howe originally. Because Alan Lee and John Howe did a lot of exploration. Of course, you can see that drawing in the top right. That is definitely John Howe. We saw similar work during the Rings of Power pre-production artwork. Remember, the John Howe's sketchbook is very, very identifiable. So that looks definitely like John Howe work.
Yes, it does actually. It does.
The Wild Men.
Oh, look at that. These the Dunlendings, the wild men of Dunland.
And then, of course, we've got Wolf, son of Freka. Cliff, would you remind me? Is Wolf the bad guy, or is he the antagonist of the movie?
It
Or
changes. He is the character who is the early childhood friend of Hera. They grow up together being friends, even though they're from different kingdoms, different communities. But then after certain events happen, you could call it if you're a screenwriter, you know it is the inciting incident that starts the plot churning forward in the first act. And that will change the nature of his relationship from friend to foe. That's part of the plot that we will see. And I learned that just from watching the trailer. Oh, you know what? At our presentation at Los Angeles Comic-Con, we played both the American and the Japanese versions of the trailer, which are significantly different from one another. You have no idea, Justin, how some people in that room had never yet heard about this film or its existence, and they were literally jumping for joy. One dude was in Jedi robes, full on dressed as Qui-Gon Jinn, and he was literally jumping up and down out of his seat, going, "Yes, yes, oh my God." He was so thrilled to learn about this production. It was really
great. Button Lady is in the chat room. Hello, Button Lady.
Hey, I love Button Lady so much.
Yeah, well, she says she disagrees with you on the definition of anime. So
that is
I'm
fair.
going to take Button Lady's opinion over you any day of the week because we love the Button Lady. This is, of course,
that's
the
rich.
Mumac.
That's funny. But it is certainly open for debate, and I'm glad to debate anyone on that. That's funny, though.
This is the Mumac Pursuit. Cliff, talk to me a bit about this. At the top left here, it says Mumac Pursuit. I thought they were called Mumakill.
I believe that's the plural.
And is that different than an Oliphant?
Nope, that's just a different language of the same creature.
Really?
Different language, referencing the same creature. Yes.
Okay, so Oliphant and Mumakill are interchangeable words?
They are.
And so Mumac is the plural of Mumakill? or other way, Mumac is singular, Mumakill is plural.
I believe so. I believe so. Yep, I believe that would be correct.
We saw a significant portion of this entire scene, more than the trailers
Otaku
even
Senpai
showed.
says that the Rankin Bass Topcraft stuff is in a gray area of anime. That is totally fair because it is an intercontinental production. Part of it designed, written, and created in America. All of it, in terms of hard work, physical animation, done by Japanese animators in a different country. So yeah, it's a bi-coastal, double country effort. So yeah,
but anime has this particular aesthetic that is assigned
to it. It does now. It does.
No,
well, you know what?
Always did.
You remember what the original Eowyn looked like in the Rankin and Bass Return of the King?
I tried.
Take a look at that. It is so anime specific. In fact, there was a
I
viral
disagree.
a video
I absolutely
that went through
disagree.
Instagram and TikTok where it showed just that scene where the confrontation between the Witch King of Angmar on the Battle of the Pelennor Fields against Eowyn, and it is the most anime thing you've ever seen. But there you go. I'm not going to argue. Hey,
or
this
oh
book, do we
wait,
know the release date? What's the release date on this book? I
this
really want
is
to get
this is
this.
coming out in February 2025, so you cannot put this on your Christmas list. This will be out
Oh,
definitely after the
okay.
movie is out in December. So
Okay.
3 months later, December, January, February. 2 months later, we will get
Okay.
this War of the Rohirrim book. It'll be at all your favorite bookstores. Now, Cliff,
Well, my
someone in the
birthday is
chat.
in late January. If anybody's listening, my birthday is the last
Well, it's
week
due
of
out in
January.
February, so
Oh, damn.
I won't be getting this for your birthday. I'm so sorry, but
Damn. All right.
Cliff,
I will.
it's so funny
Yes.
because we had this official
Yes.
release. Obviously, this is approved and planned, and Daniel Falconer was given permission to post it by all the parties involved. Would you say like this was an official announcement? I mean, it came from Daniel Falconer.
Yes, it is absolutely an official announcement.
Well,
Anything
within
that comes from
hours, there was
Weta,
an
it's official.
unofficial announcement.
What?
Within
Tell
hours
me.
of the same day, there was an
Tell me.
unofficial announcement, and
Really?
someone on Reddit and Threads got a hold of the photos of the official War of Rohirrim toy merch.
Oh yeah, the toys! Yay! There's action figures. These are so cool.
We've got Helm Hammerhand that comes with an ice troll head to mount on his wall. You've got Wolf there. You've got Hera with different armors. It looks like each of these come with a different body part of the ice troll. Helm comes
Yeah.
with the head.
Mhm.
Wolf comes with the arms, and Hera gets the body
Torso.
and legs.
Yep. The torso, and if you put them all together, you get to build yourself an ice troll.
Get out of here!
Isn't that
this
cool?
This is out of control. Here's the full.
It's really
Helmer
neat,
hand,
actually.
photo. Cliff, doesn't he look like Thor's dad, Odin?
In that red cape, he does. It's the cape. It's just the cape that gives that suggestion. Oh, you're talking about the Sir Anthony Hopkins Odin. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the cape. It's the suggestion of the cape.
it's the cape. So here's a close up. War of the Rohirrim, 12 plus Helm Hammerhand. Interesting that they're using
so cool.
that original John Howe, Alan Lee artwork, or what we think is Weta. Let's just call it Weta
Yeah.
artwork for the design of the packaging over there.
I think that's called a J card. Is it that? Is that the
yeah.
technical term in
She
collectors
has
speak? That's a J card.
Hera looking great. With her
We're
blue
going to point
cloak.
out Katie, sharp, eagle-eyed Katie, the Greyhaven Raven. She says, note that her cloak is blue with a gold brooch like Nausica at the end of the famous film Nausica of the Valley of the Wind. Yep. Another delicious reference to a famous Miyazaki heroine. Wonderful. Look at the detail.
And wait, mark it. 5:24. We got our Miyazaki minute. Cliff, you have 60 seconds.
60 seconds, go. There is someone asked me earlier today on Twitter, what do you think about using an epigraph at the opening of a film? You know, that pithy one-sentence statement, like at the beginning of The Hateful Eight, where Tarantino says, revenge is a dish best served cold. Well, I told that person in response that the best epigraph ever used was only one time, by Hayao Miyazaki, at the opening of The Wind Rises, where a Japanese director quotes a famous French poet, Paul Valéry. And the opening of The Wind Rises, or in Japanese, Kaze Tachinu, the opening of the famous Paul Valéry poem is, "The wind is rising. We must try to live." And Miyazaki's never used an epigraph in any of his films, but he uses it to tremendous effect. And if you are a director and you really want to drive home a narrative point, that's one of the better ways to do it, is to use an epigraph. Time's up. That was your Miyazaki Minute for today.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We've got details on the wolf figure. Man, he looks very emo, doesn't he?
He looks like he might be Wormtongue's great-grandfather when he was all young and badass.
Oh
He
my
does,
God!
to
Wait,
me,
hold on.
have a bit of that feeling.
let's
Yeah.
unpack that. I hope that they're not
Okay.
doing something silly like that. Do you think there's a possibility that they would
No.
do that?
No, because Grima Wormtongue was a man of Rohan. He was not from Dunland. So they could no, that I don't they would have to stretch historical possibilities to make a genetic lining up because we know very, very little about Wormtongue's uh
We don't
heritage.
need to know the
He's a man of
backstory of
Rohan.
everybody. We don't
This
need a
guy,
Wormtongue
Wolf,
backstory.
is these new characters from Dunland are rather a different window of opportunity, a window of opportunity for the storytellers to tell us more about Dunland and their history, included as a comparison with Rohan's history. So I think they're going to stick with that.
It's giving better Jon Snow. I like that comment in the chat room. Good. That's a good one. A reminder, New York Comic-Con. We will be at New York Comic-Con next week,
Oh,
October
that's exciting.
18th. Wait, I'm doing my math. 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, that's next week. Next Friday at the Jacob Javits Convention Center, there's the first official dedicated War of the Rohirrim panel. Moderated by Stephen Colbert, featuring director Kenji Kamiyama, the producers Philippa Boyens, Jason DeMarco, Joseph Chow, screenwriters Phoebe Gittins and Artie Papagiorgio, and of course Brian Cox, Guy Wise, Luke Pascalino. I really want to meet Brian Cox during this marketing campaign. I am such a huge fan of Succession, all the way back to Red Dragon and X-Men.
Yeah.
I'm just a fan of Brian Cox teaching his granddaughter how to speak Shakespeare. I'm just
that is
a big
so cool.
fan,
Yeah.
and I hope I get the opportunity to just meet Brian Cox. That's all I want out of this. I'm putting that out in the world. I don't know if anybody from Warner Brothers is watching. Just putting it out in the world. It's only one thing I want from all this: a good movie and to meet Brian Cox. But so that panel will be moderated by Stephen Colbert. That is next Friday at 11 a.m. I predict
that's
we
right around the corner.
Get a new trailer released online next Friday. I do not know anything. I am predicting that they would show a new trailer.
That's a fair prediction, good sir.
Cliff, you know what else is going on next Friday?
Fair prediction. What's that?
The OneRing.net is hosting the official, the unofficial, the official fan, our official OneRing.net War of the Rohirrim party for New York Comic-Con. Tickets are currently available.
Exciting.
You can find the link on Discord and our socials and everything else. But Discord is the best way to get early access to all the tickets and access to all the things. Official OneRing.net War of the Rohirrim party. $30 ticket that covers I think 1 or 2 drinks, and it covers the rental of the place. It's going to be Midtown Manhattan at Joyce Public House, and it is going to be wonderful. I just sent a box of wonderful goodies to our pals in New York, and they're assembling some really neat goodie bags and cosplay, especially Rohan costumes. Warmly encouraged for many reasons. We've got special collectibles from Syzygy Forge and Metal Bird and Shire Post Mint and Geek Orthodox and our friends at OSHA. And we're giving away tickets to the Lord of the Rings Return of the King screening with a live orchestra at Radio City Music Hall next year.
Wow.
This is that we're giving away so much. The $30 ticket is just valuable. And you never know who's going to show up to a Torn party. Again, this party is Friday night at 7:30. And
so cool. Looking forward to that very much.
And the panel is at 11 a.m. I'm not going to say anything more. You just never know who might crash a Torn party.
You know what? That happens a lot. You're right. That is fair to say. You never know when there's an alignment of the stars. You never know.
Cliff, we have a question from the chat from a few people. Maybe you can clarify this because I'm not quite sure. On this book, back to Daniel Falconer's book, this is
Yes.
different than the hardcover books that we previewed a while ago. The design, the design of the War of the Rohirrim. The art of the War of the Rohirrim is a higher end look at the movie versus the two companion books that are coming out when the movie comes out.
Those companion books are usually written by Brian Sibley, who's a well-known and adored Tolkien scholar who edited The Fall of Numenor, that wonderful publication that we have been talking about for months and months. So yeah, you're right. This is an art book, what you would call a big coffee table book. It's why that's why it has that price point. It is not the same as the thinner, easy breezy little companion book. This is something different. Yes.
So, yeah, that's just a little clarity. Cliff, that wasn't the only thing that was announced this weekend. Our collectibles editor, LSR, a.k.a. Josh Long.
Yes, Josh.
Posted
He's so
on the
great.
main website that Weta Workshop is diving into the Hobbit years with a pre-order for the wizard, the brown wizard, at his home. I don't even know what the name of his home is. What is Radagast's home name? Do you remember?
Roscobel. It's Roscobel. Yes.
Oh yeah, Rosco.
That's why he says in the film, "These are Roscobel rabbits," when he talks about his sled rabbits to pull his sled. Yeah.
It'll be out early next year. Wonderful.
Look at that.
Wonderful details from Weta Workshop.
Oh my God, their environments tend to be redonkulous. They're so big and detailed. Really fabulous stuff.
Really fabulous stuff. Let's just dive into the details. Roscobel with Radagast. It is there. It is Radagast in Roscobel, US $999.00 for a
Look at everybody in the live chat.
Stale.
So great to see everybody here. You guys, these collector's pieces tend to be significantly more detailed and gorgeous. I mean, you remember the Dead Marshes that they put out? That's about 4 feet high off the table and has multiple layers and layers and layers to it. Like the undead things under the water. There's a separate layer below, and above it is Samwise, Frodo, and Gollum looking over, and the top of it is this dead Marshes tree, and it's a multi-layered work of gorgeousness. This beautiful piece will be no less gorgeous. But we've been looking around the environment when we were talking about it, and we were wondering, where is Sebastian? Where is Sebastian, the little hedgehog? We were still looking for him. We don't know where he is. He might be hidden in there somewhere.
Plenty of scrolls.
Oh my, look, his magic scrolls. Is that one of the rabbits under the door?
Yes,
it's one of the Roscobel rabbits under the door. I love that.
Some mushrooms.
Oh, look. And his beautiful little details in there. It's so fabulous.
He's got a bird on his shoulder.
Yeah.
Oh,
I love
Man.
Radagast.
Yeah, where is
the
Sebastian?
Brown.
How you gonna do this thing without Sebastian?
You know what? Maybe that will be a surprise that you find him somewhere.
That's so wonderful. Cliff, that's not the only amazing merch people found this week. Check this out. We're about to get in to we've got a couple more things before we dive into our episode 8 Rings of Power review. But one of the most charming things that fans have locked in on episode 8 is Tom Bombadil's tea kettles. They are wonderful tea kettles.
Speaking of hedgehogs, the close-up of his hedgehog tea kettle has captured the imagination of fans everywhere. It's true.
And I feel
It's
like
true.
that's related to Sebastian the Hedgehog from the Hobbit movies. Well, Cliff, we know that there's no Rings of
Might be.
merch, Rings of Power merch, right? There's just no Rings of Power merch.
Unfortunately, there's none.
Well, check this
Yeah.
out. Rings of Power did not design those tea kettles. They
What?
bought them off a website.
No,
Let me
you're
bring this up
kidding
on
me.
screen. Here's
We
Tom
can get a
Bombadil
hedgehog
with
tea
his
kettle?
tea kettle. Look at that.
I'm
That's a
dying.
screenshot from the show.
I'm dying. I love that.
There's a close up of the tea kettle on the show,
That's the best.
and
my
it
God,
is made
that is
by
so cool.
Shepperton Ceramics. Shepperton Ceramics. Let's go to the tape. Ah, come on.
Show that tape. I'll come right back as you show that.
There it is. You can buy this at Shepperton Ceramics. Let me see. Do they have a link in bio? Let's go to Teapot Commission Enquiries. As you may know, I was fortunate enough to be given the opportunity to create pieces that were used in the Rings of Power, specifically Tom Bombadil's Hedgehog Teapot and various ceramic pieces around the Hobbit's desert encampment. I've been contacted by many people who expressed that they would like me to make a similar woodland creature. First off, I am very humbled. Secondly, I would like to stress for legal reasons I do not own the rights to the hedgehog. Anyone wishing me to create a woodland animal themed teapot, inspired but dissimilar to Tom Bombadil's, can register their interest. Bear in mind I am but a humble potter, operating out of my studio, Guilford Pottery. So there you go. Check it out. Shepperton Ceramics. This is the account you want to find. You know what? You want to follow him. Let's get him up to 1,000 follows. Shepperton Ceramics. Tell him.
Yeah, let's follow him. Yes,
tell him
let's do that.
theonering.net sent ya. Shepperton Ceramics. Shout out. Look at this. Look at this. Oh my
Love
gosh.
that.
He's got
I'm going to follow him right now.
Shepperton Ceramics. Look at that. He did 3 different hedgehog teapots. Oh my gosh.
There it is. Shepperton Ceramics. Right. He's got more followers now. I'm following him.
There you go.
That is so cool.
So, again, because Amazon does not have a merch agreement in place yet, we cannot buy this. But I guarantee you, the minute there's a merch license, I'm buying this teapot, this tea kettle. 100%. This is on my immediate wish list.
It's absolutely cutest thing to have come out of the show.
Shout out to Shepperton Ceramics. But back to Rohirrim. We have one more thing. We forgot to mention this, but let me go back. Laswin and Demosthenes on August 30th.
Yes.
This article's on the website.
Stephen Gallagher.
The Sounds of the Rohirrim. Gallagher concludes scoring. But Cliff, Happy Hobbit, Kelly got a scoop. Figured out a secret. Check this out.
Ooh.
And an
end credit vocalist? What's
Happy
this
Hobbit was first to see it. I don't know if I have the audio working. Paris Paloma. So check this out. I'm losing my Hobbit mind over here. Happy Hobbit was the first to make the connections on TikTok. And then it was confirmed by Paris Paloma herself that she is involved in War of the Rohirrim. Paris Paloma is a wonderful, wonderful singer. I believe she's French.
She is.
I don't remember. But she posted this Rohirrim trailer, I believe, right around the time Kelly scooped this little thing. So congrats. It sounds like the official end credit song is for War of the Rohirrim is going to be sung by Paris Paloma, and she joins the ranks of Ed Sheeran and Annie Lennox.
Yes. And Enya. and Emiliana Torini, and also the lead singer from Crowded House. What's his name? Name the lead singer from Crowded House. That's gonna haunt
and
me. I know
and Billy
everyone in the
Boyd.
chat and Billy Boyd. Everyone in the chat is gonna tell me, "Come on, Clifford, come on, wake up." I've sung his "Song of the Misty Mountains" at many a karaoke night, and
Oh
it's a
wait,
great song
last one
because I'm a
says
baritone.
I wouldn't say she confirmed, but
Neil
she
Finn,
shared
yes,
the.
thank you, Neil Finn.
I wouldn't
Thank you,
say
last
she
one.
confirmed, but she shared the trailer. Well, I guess I shouldn't say confirm. I guess
Well,
wait until
that is
next
an
Friday. Wait, wait until
wait.
next
That is
Friday.
an it is an oblique way. It's a very off the side oblique way of making a confirmation that she's involved professionally in this film. So yeah,
There you go. So, Paris Paloma, find her on Spotify, on Apple Music, on YouTube.
yes,
Find Paris Paloma, give her a follow, and
absolutely.
she just is a wonderful artist. And Kelly was already a big fan. Kelly was in her Discord and stuff like that. Like Kelly's like an Uber fan, and she put the pieces
Fabulous.
together. So there you go. Well, Cliff,
That's fabulous. Good
before we
stuff.
get into Rings of Power,
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to talk about this.
Yes, we should.
Orlando Bloom has spoken to Andy Serkis about joining his Hunt for Gollum movie,
Oh dear.
and the
Yes.
guys talked about de-aging Orlando, and Orlando's fully on board with using AI to de-age him so he could return as Legolas. Cliff, your initial thoughts?
Okay. That's how they brought us a de-aged
Mark
Luke
Hamill,
Skywalker.
Luke Skywalker.
Yep. No, de-aged
Also,
Mark
Indiana
Hamill.
Jones. Indiana
That's
Jones
how they brought. Oh, they actually did the de-aging on Harrison Ford as well for yeah. What was
and
it? The Dial of Destiny.
Dial Destiny. Carrie Fisher in Rogue
Yeah.
One.
And they did also de-aging version of Grand Moff Tarkin
Well, no,
in
he was just alive. They just undead him.
no. See now, this is there's a way to use the tools, and if they can get it right, and they want to make Orlando Bloom look like that, then I hope they get it right, because we're going to keep staring at it closer and closer, and there's going to be an undeserved amount of scrutiny, extra scrutiny on Orlando Bloom's face to see how they did what they did. Because when it's done poorly, like in X-Men Days of Future Past, that's when it's noticeable, when it's done poorly. Okay? When it's done really, really well and you don't ever notice it, that's when they get away with magic. So there will be a lot of scrutiny
And
on this.
Weta Digital are the kings of digital face replacement.
Oh, you're right. Mateos Santos says, remember how they did Robert De Niro and the other characters in The Irishman. That's an example of how it was done halfway decently.
Cliff,
Yeah.
what is your opinion? Would you be okay with Orlando Bloom being de-aged via AI?
I obviously don't have a choice, but would I be okay with it? As I was just saying, it has to pass the smell test, and there will be a lot more scrutiny on it to see if that de-aging passes the smell test.
Did you appreciate Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One?
Yeah, I mean, it
Peter
was a little
Cushing?
bit. Yeah, it was a little bit. It was mostly there. Um, the big reveal that people still criticize is Princess Leia's sudden appearance in the closing shot of the film.
Sure,
What's
but did you
nuts?
like? Let's stay on Tarkin. Did you? You thought Tarkin was well done? I thought it was
It
well
was
done.
pretty good. It was pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah.
Would you be okay with the same technology that brought Peter Cushing back for Rogue One? Peter Cushing's best friend in the whole world, Christopher Lee, being brought back as Saruman.
Oh, oh. Mm, mm, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. That's hard. That's hard to say.
Is it?
Um, well, because I'm not aware of what Christopher Lee's estate feels about it. Orlando Bloom is still very much alive.
Ignore the legal stuff.
No, that's not the legal
Creatively,
stuff. That is
creatively.
not the legal stuff. I mean, Orlando Bloom is with us, and he can say yes, but Christopher Lee has to have members of his estate
Sure.
approve.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
has to happen.
Just pretend everybody approves it.
Okay.
Are you open to Christopher Lee returning via AI as Saruman? And I want to hear
guess
from the
so.
chat room. Chat room, what do you guys think of
Well,
AI de-aging Orlando, or should they recast a young Legolas?
there are naysayers in the chat who disapprove of Grand Moff Tarkin, and his appearance didn't look quite right. But Zap Verasepa is smart to say that Rogue One was nearly 10 years ago, and the technology will be better now. My first gut instinct is that they should recast Saruman, and they won't have to de-age a Christopher Lee. I think that would be my first preference. But if they're gonna do it, and they're gonna de-age Christopher Lee and have him come back, if they're gonna re-alive him, then they better be damn sure that they do it right. And I mean, really detailed. They better do it right.
Need to give new actors a chance. It's a good a bunch of people.
I
are
appreciate
saying
that sentiment. Yes.
So, Cliff, talk to me about Legolas coming back as young, or Orlando coming back as young Legolas. Like, are we open to both? Is it the director's prerogative? Do fans have a say? Should fans have a say, an opinion that the studio listens to when it comes to the Legolas
absolutely.
question? This
yes,
is an important
fans should have a
character.
say. Well, let's take a look at the Tom Cruise thing, because he shows up in a new Mission Impossible film or in Top Gun sequel, but he has been heavily photoshopped. There are people, and I know them, they work in the industry. They are special effects people who have one job: cut the neck fat from under Tom Cruise's chin. They are consistently de-aging a modern 2024
They did
Tom
that to
Cruise
Legolas
movie.
in the Hobbit movies. You could see it. You could see it.
They literally, you could see it. They're like, "Oh, we're going to cut your neck wrinkles.
Yeah,
we're going to reduce the line of your chin fat."
But
that's
yeah,
what they do.
Legolas,
no, but I mean,
Legolas did
is
it
that
in the
an equivalent? Do you think that that's an equivalent?
No,
say,
Legolas in the Hobbit was an equivalent.
Yes. Well, if they're going to do any de-aging on any brand new star, who's not trying to look like he's 30 years younger, he's just trying to not look like he's as old as he is, because Tom Cruise has all the vanity of any of the worst
I'm not going to
A-listers in
take
Hollywood.
any Tom Cruise slander from you, but let's move on.
Pure vanity.
But
that's the reason why they hire a team of people to do that.
Cliff,
Orlando Bloom.
Have you seen the pictures of the Mark Hamill actor that they hired on The Mandalorian? The guy actually looks. If you look at the behind-the-scenes photos before they did the Luke Skywalker face replacement, he actually looks like young Mark Hamill. They found an actor that looked pretty close. So I wonder if it's worth doing a global search to find an actor that looks like 19-year-old Orlando.
I wonder. I think so. I am totally down with new casting, and I'm totally down with the sentiment in the chat.
And I am totally down with
brand
AI.
new actors
Bring
should have
back
a chance.
Saruman. Bring back Christopher Lee. People in the chat were saying his voice is going to be hard. Actually, recreating Christopher Lee's voice in AI is probably going to be the easiest thing to do in all of Hollywood, because Christopher Lee has more movie credits than any other actor in the history of film. There's more samples of his talking than
there are more samples
else
of Lee
in history of film.
Sir Christopher.
So the best thing about AI, the thing about AI is the bigger the data set that it learns from, the better it is. And Christopher Lee has the biggest data set of any actor ever. So I do think because of that, there is an opportunity that you could do AI, Christopher Lee.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Okay. I get that. I get that. They could.
So what
Well,
I think we just need to keep having this conversation because I think AI is coming for us whether we like it or not. We know PJ loves his technology. Look at what he did and won an Emmy with the Beatles. We know Andy Serkis loves technology and motion capture and AI. He's already said it on camera, and now we know that
well,
that Orlando Bloom is okay with AI de aging. So you have
he
three
is.
people involved with these movies who have already said good with AI. How fast do us fans just need to get on board with this?
Yeah, fans are going to have to get on board with it because, I mean, it's just going to happen. Now let's underscore the big difference between generative AI stealing and digesting commercial artwork and
No, we're not
ruining.
having that. We're not having that
Hold on,
discussion. We're
I
not.
need
We're
to
not
make the
talking
comparison.
about
Yeah, I
that
need you
part
to
of
not I
elite.
need you to not talk over me this time, Justin.
That is
There's a
bad
big difference
faith.
between what listen, I'm going to finish my sentence. Thank you. There's a difference between what most people complain about, which is a legitimate arena of intelligent debate. That is really legit debate that people complain about artists losing livelihoods to generative AI. But that's not the arena that we're talking about. We're on another side of this talking about AI not stealing other people's artwork, but helping to refine the process of visual effects to a perfected state where they need specific AI tools to get the job done. Those are two totally different arenas of the debate. And I
Very good.
think that it's fair. And wouldn't you agree, Justin? It's fair to make that distinction so that we can go forward without getting people upset, knowing that we have differing opinions on each of those areas of discussion.
Would you
Yeah?
mind
Okay.
responding to this comment
Okay.
from Higgy Baby Cliff? Higgy Baby in the
Tell me.
term says, "I think the main question we need to be asking ourselves is, why do we have a drive to keep using the same actors over and over?"
Why do we want to keep using the same actors over and over? Oh boy, that's the power of nostalgia, I think. You can attribute that primarily to the incredible magnetic power of nostalgia and the desire to see our favorite performers, the performers we love and adore, coming into the roles that we love them in. We love these performers, and we particularly love them in these Middle Earth roles. And that nostalgia is powerful enough for Andy Serkis to make a directorial choice that he's going to use certain tools to fulfill the nostalgia that people want to see and feel. So I get that. I understand the instinct that's there. I do. I understand it.
And as we're talking about this, I feel myself conflicted because I
Mm.
I would be very okay. In fact, I would prefer full AI CG Christopher Lee as Saruman. But at the same time, I want to
Okay.
recast Legolas and Aragorn. I would prefer to have Viggo Mortensen involved in a directorial aspect. I want Viggo directing Sebastian Stan as young Aragorn.
I would love Sebastian Stan to come in as young Aragorn. I'm with the people in the chat who would like Charles Dance, famously from Game of Thrones and the Sandman series. I would
Charles
love, love,
Dance. Let me
love
see. Let me see.
to have
Okay.
Charles Dance come in and be the Christopher Lee Saruman. That would be wonderful to have him do that.
He was in Game of Thrones.
Of course he was. He was Tywin Lannister. And he
So
was
you
also a lead character in the Sandman series on Netflix.
do you think let me ask you this. What if they
Mm.
got an actor to perform Saruman under heavy makeup, big nose, big beard, but they used AI to dub his lines like they do with Darth Vader?
Oh, do you know what? Well, is it not true that before his death, um,
James Earl Jones.
the
Yeah, that's what I just
yeah,
said.
Mr. James
They
Earl
use
Jones did
AI.
say
They have been
that he
using
gives
AI.
permission. He's given permission to have his voice used for all future iterations of Darth Vader in perpetuity. And they'll be
So
using AI tools to do that.
would you prefer that, or do you think they should shy away from the idea of using a no-name actor as Saruman under the big beard and makeup, but using
Hmm.
AI for Christopher Lee's voice?
I don't know. That's interesting. If you're going to bring in a new actor, let if you're going to use Charles Dance in this ongoing example, then just let Charles Dance's remarkable voice be used because he's got a remarkable voice as well, and he can play evil. Boy, can he ever! Uh, did you happen to see the recent Exorcist film?
I don't
Because
like
he's in
scary
that.
movies.
Oh, it was really, really good in that. He was really quite good in that.
Well, okay, so
Bye
we
bye,
got some
Troy.
options.
Thank you for joining us, Troy. Thank you for being with us.
Cliff, do we have any leaks yet on who is voicing Saruman in War of the Rohirrim? Is it AI? Is it an actor?
Don't know. Do not know anything about that yet.
Should we know before opening night? Or should they keep that a secret?
Mm, mm,
I almost feel like
mm,
they should keep it a
mm,
secret, much to our frustration.
I think they will. I think they will keep it secret. They will. They've kept it secret so far, and I think they'll do so right up to the release of the film.
Well, all right.
And we don't know if Sir Christopher had, and this is Laswen making a very excellent point in the chat. We don't know yet if Christopher Lee would need to have given permission or approval for his voice to be used in future AI purposes. But for me to be okay with it, yeah. If the Christopher Lee estate has okayed it, then we would, as fans, would be better with that. Yes.
Here's the thing about doing a prequel like Hunt for Gollum. It's set decades, not thousands of years, decades before the movies that we all fell in love with, okay?
Yep.
This is the perfect opportunity to recast. If you're going to do 20 years of new movies under a new license, this is the perfect time to recast. Yes, nostalgia member berries really are appetizing.
Yes.
But this is the time to consider
good reference to South Park.
another actor for young Aragorn, young Legolas. Well, young Legolas doesn't make sense because elves are ageless, and he was already in The Hobbit, and this would take place after The Hobbit. Am I correct? Hunt for Gollum is after The Hobbit?
Yes. Yes, actually, that's in the 60-year time frame between the end of The Hobbit and the beginning of Fellowship of the Ring. That's exactly where that story resides.
Recast young Aragorn, bring in Viggo Mortensen as the director of the second movie, use AI on Orlando to make him young Legolas, and the jury is still out on Saruman, but Charles Dance would be inspired casting.
It is. That is inspired casting. Thank you to the very creative participants in our YouTube chat. Wow.
Well, it's the top of the hour, so let's jump in to the final episode of season 2 of Rings of Power. The season's over, and we got nothing to say. So thank you for joining us on Torn Tuesday. We do this every...
That's the end of Torn Tuesday. We've got nothing to say about the finale. No, wait. You're so funny. Before we start talking about T-ROP, I got myself a mini verse that you had mentioned.
Oh, what?
One of these
the thing I had on this a couple weeks ago?
You showed this. It's where you pour resin into the mold, and you get to create your very own weapon of Middle-earth. So I got myself one, and it would be really fun to open this on air and show everybody what I got.
It's such a mess to open. I don't know if it's worth opening, but what store did you get it so people know?
I went to the Target, and there at the local Target, they have a bunch of different brands of these little mini verse things. They've got potions from Harry Potter. They've got other things for little girls, but the specific Lord of the Rings ones almost completely sold out fast. These are really cool. And if I open it up right here, I'll show you. Oh, what's that? Hey, that's the symbol of Rohan. That is the symbol of the horse lords of Rohan. That means if I open this up, it's going to be Herugrim. This is going to be King Theoden's sword. So we open up this mystery egg. Oh, look at that. Yep. Here is the mold. This is the resin mold for Herugrim. And here's the instructions. Oh, and here's the display card. Look, it's the banner. The banner of the white horse on the green field. So when I get to put this together, I will be having a beautiful little display of this banner. Oh, wow, this is really cool. And I'm going to put it all together. Oh, there's more instructions, and there's a little hammer and anvil inside here. This is so cool. There's the banner that will hang the sword underneath it. Another complete set of fold-out instructions. And inside this magic is the bottle of resin. And you'll pour the resin into the mold. Here's the little siphon. This is the little siphon hose. And here it is. This is so cute. Here's a little treasure chest that has my hammer and anvil, and also a mini map. Look at that hammer and anvil. How cute. And here's a little cute mini map, a sectional map of Middle Earth, just one section of it. So I'm going to, I guess later on this evening, maybe, I'm going to be making my own King Theoden sword, which is appropriate because we've been talking about the War of the Rohirrim. There's my little hammer and anvil. So cute. Look at this cute little anvil. So I'm going to make myself a cool sword tonight. Yeah. I didn't know what I was going to get. I was hoping that I was going to get the One Ring because it comes in a big display, but this is cool. This is super cool.
Cliff,
I might go back and get another one, but you know what? They're $10 each.
Cliff,
It's
been
very
been a
interesting.
while since I've done some Green Dragon gossip, but
Are you going to do some Green Dragon gossip on me?
let's
Seriously, bro?
call this Green Dragon gossip, all right? Cliff,
Okay.
can you explain to folks who are just joining the show what Green Dragon gossip is?
There's a certain segment of our show where we say this is not the delivery of news. This is the delivery of rumors. And so we separate it so that we don't get ourselves stuck up in some kind of trouble or some kind of a pinch. That's why we do it this way.
All right,
We're saying this is not an absolute statement of fact. It's not confirmed. But because it is so intriguing, we put it into Green Dragon Gossip because we want to see how it will manifest, if it will come true. That's how we talk about this kind of stuff.
well, there's
on our
someone
show.
in our chat room that said Stixboy73 says, I believe Michael Wildman has been cast as Saruman in War
Who's
of
Michael
the Rohirrim.
Wildman?
Well,
Wow, who's that?
I just went to Google it.
Let's look
Michael
that up.
Wildman, he was in Hobbs and Shaw and The
Yeah?
Bourne Ultimatum
Oh,
and
wow.
Ready Player One.
Yeah.
Let's see
Oh, I
here.
remember a dancing Gandalf in Ready Player One. That was fun. Remember that?
Let's see. He was a UK police leader in Hobbs and Shaw. Ready Player One, he was the drill instructor. And folks,
Oh,
look at that.
okay.
Upcoming, let me bring this full screen. Upcoming, it says The Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim. He is a voice.
Oh, let's see. Who is this? Okay.
I do not have
I'll
this
be right back in a
piped
second.
I do not have this the audio piped in, but if you go to YouTube, he has a deep voice. He is British. He has a deep voice. And I want you to go to YouTube and close your eyes. Find this video. Search for Michael Wildman. Again,
Okay.
we're bringing this up. Search for Michael Wildman. Go to YouTube and find this interview. Emmerdale's Michael Wildman reveals who AI is who is really in love with.
Oh, this is fascinating, really.
His voice is stunning. I'm sorry I don't have the audio set up. So we might have found our Saruman.
Maybe. I guess we'll find out soon.
And Cliff is gone.
I'm
I
here.
want to. I'm listening to this interview. Uh, I like the voice. I like the voice. I think he could pull off Saruman.
If he has a really distinct and resonant, deep voice, that's what he requires. And here I am doing my distinct, resonant voice, bringing it way down here. I think that'd be really cool. Let's do it. Let's see what he's got.
All right. Oh, Cliff. All right. Let's do your audition. What would Saruman
Okay.
say when he enters the halls of Edoras, saying, "Why wasn't I invited to this wedding?"
The courtesy of your hall is somewhat lessened of late, Helm Hammerhand. That's not so good. That wasn't really great.
He was
But
Brutus in Planet of the Apes with Andy Serkis.
oh, that's so cool. Oh, that's how they work together then, because they were working on the Planet of the Apes films. That's how they know each other. So cool.
Well, Andy is not involved in War of the Rohirrim, but he's tangentially in the Weta family because Weta Digital did the Apes movies, and I didn't they win a bunch of Oscars for it. Well, so there you go. That's the Green Dragon gossip. We might
Yeah,
have
ideally,
a
that's
Saruman.
true. Zap Verasepa is correct. Ideally, if I do anything, I would be the voice of an Ent. That would be the ideal casting for me, to be any Ent of any kind. That would be great.
A
Tip of
little
the hat to
programming
you for
note.
that.
Varking, our resident mod of LOTR on Prime, and he's now taken over LOTR, the main Lord of the Rings subreddit, and he is a mod in the Torn Discord. And you can tag him on Discord, and he'll just show up like magic, like a Beetlejuice. He is asking fans for questions. He Varking over on the subreddit LOTR on Prime. There's a sticky thread at the top where you can put your
That'd be
question
cool.
in for JD Payne and
Yeah.
Patrick McKay. Varking is going to hand choose himself which questions get sent to JD and Patrick. So
Excellent.
you need
That's
to
excellent.
impress Varking, and it needs to be a good question. He's not just going to copy and paste or send a link to Patrick and JD. They don't have time to deal with fandom stuff, right? Like, they're busy making
Exactly.
shows.
They're very busy, but it's fascinating that they're making themselves available for a subreddit interview. That's really kind of cool.
By the way,
It's very cool.
Variety confirmed our scoop last week. We reported on you the writer's room for season 3 of Rings of Power. Well, Variety confirmed the names, so that was exciting. All right. Amazon Prime posted this this morning. Gaslight Gatekeep Girl Boss. Yes, that is
Cute.
the official yellow gold check mark. That is officially Prime Video official company channels posting Gaslight Gatekeep Girl Boss memes for episode 8 of Rings of Power. Cliff, is this the attitude you expected from a Lord of the Rings billion-dollar TV show?
It's hilarious. It's kind of hilarious that they're using super modern meme traffic to bring attention. That's really kind of fun. That's really cool and funny. Somebody is grumpy and wants his dinner, so that's why we have this crazy cat entering our episode, because the internal clock means it's time for dinner. But this kind of meme stuff that they're doing in terms of official promotion of the show, it's very different. And perhaps it is another sign of how they are differentiating themselves from the way marketing would be done by New Line Cinema. They're doing their own thing, and that's cool. That's fine. It further reinforces the point that you need to settle back and appreciate the Rings of Power for being its completely own separate thing. It doesn't want to have all of that burden hanging over it to be what Peter Jackson's stuff was, what New Line did for 6 films. It wants to be its own sandbox, and there are a bunch of different kids playing in that sandbox, and that's what they want to do. And if you can just, release that into the universe, then you can enjoy You can sidestep a lot of instant, criticism that might come to mind because of how they changed the lore, quote unquote. And we're going to get into that in a very interesting academic discussion soon. And if you can just settle into the fact that they're doing their own thing and they're trying to make this their own beast. It's their own separate beast. And that's their own thing. So that's
Well,
fine. And
Cliff,
the marketing, I think, is supporting that thing of being, let's differentiate ourselves in the marketplace. I think that's part of it.
well, Cliff,
Yes.
you were blowing up my phone this weekend after you watched the episode, and you kept asking me, "Did you watch it? Did you watch it?" I know you have a ton of thoughts. I don't have a lot of thoughts. My brain is empty. So
Hmm.
before you take the floor, I just want to say
I'm not going to
there
take
isn't
the floor.
much to complain about for episode 8 of Rings of Power. That is some of the best television ever put on television.
It was really good
Hold
stuff.
on,
Season
I'm on
two.
the. It's my floor. You get it next.
Go ahead.
The
Go ahead.
Did anyone ever think that we would get a Balrog fight on a TV budget? Did anyone ever think that a Balrog looking that good would be on our TV screens in our living rooms, in our bedrooms, like that? The episode 8 is a slam dunk home run. Yes, there are nitpicks just because we're lore nerds and we see things that like that's weird. But I got it, and I have severe nitpicks that we'll get into in future weeks.
Yes.
But overall,
Sure, that's fair.
My review of Rings of Power episode 8, it is one of the best single hour best episodes of television ever put on TV. We saw things that TV is not known for. We saw things that only has been available to movie screens for 100 years. And this episode elevates what it means to be a tentpole television show. And congrats to everybody. This episode, and just this episode alone, they did cook, and they cooked well. And that's all I have to say about this episode. Cliff, what did you think?
I enjoyed the significant improvements in season 2, especially because season 1 felt like there were, the beginnings of things, but the developmental pace of bringing the story to where it needed to be wasn't on display until now. Season 2 really cashed in on developing everything that they had laid in seeds in the ground. And, they did show a lot of that metaphorically, planting seeds in the ground. They showed plenty of that in season 1. And it wasn't just a visual metaphor for the TV show and its contents. It was a strong metaphor for the showrunners themselves, making a statement about their work, not just internally within the logic of the show. But planting all those seeds in season 1, I believe, paid off greatly here in season 2. It is actually my mind to take episode 7 and episode 8, the finale, and put them together of a piece. I consider them connected as a full piece. That would be because Charlotte Branstrom separately did all the directing herself on episode 7 and 8, and they conclude the story. And it's better to think, well, isn't that why they brought people together in New York City and other locations to have invited fans and influencers to do a big fan screening of the finale, including both 7 and 8 together? I see some people in the live chat who say that the ending of episode 8 was not as strong as episode 7. And that's because we at home had to separate 1 week, one whole week of viewing and digesting before we saw them. But watching 7 and 8 together back to back provides a much better narrative focus. And I think it pulls us through the end of the story, especially the tragic ending of Celebrimbor's existence, but with such a powerful performance from Charles Edwards. Really ripping good stuff. You can set aside complaints about um, how they changed the lore and the timeline and the characters, but for what it was, given Charlie Vickers and Charles Edwards took episodes 7 and 8 to the heights of storytelling that we wanted from a Second Age series all along. That stuff between Celebrimbor and Anatar was solid gold, and those two actors brought a great deal to the proceedings. The incredibly sad and beautiful moment that opened up episode 8, you mentioned it already, Justin, but that Balrog and the senior Durin the Third as the king having a moment of forgiveness with his son and saying, I never, let you win. That was just you getting stronger. He was admitting to his son that he had faith in his son, that he believed in his son. It was so beautiful to see that moment of reconciliation between father and son, while he makes a self-sacrifice to take the Balrog and have another collapse cave in, which is what happens, so that they can temporarily save Khazad-dûm from the horror of the Balrog being right there. And I thought that was a really fascinating way to start episode 8. We got a really interesting fight sequence between Galadriel and Anatar, Sauron, who kept shifting forms over and over and over again to be Celebrimbor, to be earlier version of Halbrand, to be herself. Galadriel ends up visually fighting with herself. And it was a way to bring another metaphor into the story. It was really interesting. Very, very sad, honestly, to see one of the most interesting characters, Adar, taken just off the table. He's gone. He's off the table. And obviously we're spoiling every single thing that we saw in episode 8. But Adar was expertly played by Joseph Mawle and then Sam Hazeldine. He was such a fascinating character. There is a lot to debate about whether Nenya, the Ring of Adamant, would provide the kind of healing that it does. It is super demonstrated in undeniable ways that there's direct hard magic at play, that ring, Galadriel's ring, is a healing object, and Adar uses it to heal years and years and years of torment where Morgoth was trying to reform him and change him through torture and the dark arts to be like an orc or an uruk instead of his original elf form. And so I found it interesting that they reinforced that that hard magic system. It is not necessarily easily understood as a direct correlation with the books and the way that we see Galadriel using her ring in the books. It's not a direct correlation. You're going to have to take a leap or two forward in your narrative mind to see how they got to that point of Nenya doing what it did. But at that point, I was seeing Adar in a whole new light, and then he was killed, and now he's off the table now, which is too bad because he was such an interesting new character who could have done some very interesting things through other seasons. But it was not to be. The most powerful and impactful work as a thespian, as an actor, comes from Charles Edwards and his final dynamite confrontation towards Sauron. Do you have something to say? I think somebody wants to talk to the audience and he has an opinion. He has an opinion on Celebrimbor. What is that opinion? Okay. The only thing he has to say is feed me Seymour. All right, I'll feed you later. Here's the thing. it was so powerful to hear Celebrimbor knowing that he's going to die, knowing that he's in his final minutes of life, but slamming Sauron with such excellent criticism by calling him merely a shadow of Morgoth. It was exceptionally good. Oh man, that true creation requires sacrifice. Yep, I'm going to say it like a lot of other people have already said it. Charles Edwards will get an Emmy nomination for his performance in The Rings of Power. I don't know if he will win, but he's going to get nominated. He has to be nominated for an Emmy. And that would be a nice feather in the cap of the producers and showrunners of The Rings of Power. Oh, and you know what? Well, sometimes the Emmy Awards do recognize fantasy. They have
Yeah,
given Emmy
look,
Awards to,
Game of
well, hey,
Thrones won, and
the Game of Thrones
it's
shows, they've gotten lots of
yeah.
Emmys. And not
I
to
don't
mention
think that's
Fallout.
nothing's
Fallout
holding
recently
them
got
back.
lots and lots of Emmy nominations, lots and lots.
But
So yeah, it does happen.
let's stay on Charles Edwards.
He was
Cliff,
extraordinary. What do you think,
uh,
Justin? Wasn't he great?
so I think he deserves an Oscar. I know Charlie Vickers as Anatar has been wonderful, but
Yeah. Well, the way
Amazon,
they played off of each other was wild.
If you're still watching Amazon, focus all of your efforts on this man's nomination and win. I know you want to play
Yeah,
nice
yeah.
and give all the actors an opportunity to get nominated. I know you want to be seen as the great equal and everybody gets equal effort and equal screen time. Put all
Yeah.
your eggs in this guy's basket.
This is the supporting
get
role.
him back.
Yep.
We don't
Yep.
get him back. This is his
We don't.
one and final chance. Where there's
Yep.
no future seasons with Celebrimbor, and they should bring him
Mhm.
back like Obi-Wan Kenobi, talking to Ghost Galadriel. I mean,
Yeah,
I
it's
wouldn't
not
put it.
happening
I
that way.
wouldn't put it past these showrunners to turn him into a visionary ghost like Obi-Wan Kenobi. But I'm telling you, Amazon, put all your eggs in the basket and just get this man the win, the nomination and the win, Best Supporting Actor.
And further to your point, Justin, I would like very much to say that you should put him in the right category. Do not put a whole nominating effort and a nominating campaign to have him in the lead actor. Put him in the supporting actor category, and then put your efforts into an Emmy campaign on that. That is the appropriate way to do it. That's where he will win.
Cliff,
That is where he will win.
I want to ask you though, Charles Edwards, since episode 1, season 1,
Yes.
stood out in this show
Mm-hmm.
because not only is he a great actor and thespian, but let's be honest,
Yes.
Charles Edwards stood out from the get because he was older than the rest of the cast, and he's twice the age of the original Celebrimbor actor that was originally cast and replaced.
Oh, that is true. Twice as old as Tom Budge. Okay.
What
Okay.
about he is the
Okay.
oldest elf on screen. He's the oldest.
Aside from Círdan. Círdan was appropriately aged to be as old as he is.
But
He's
he
one of
isn't
the
a main
first elves that
character.
ever
He is a
existed.
guest appearance. He isn't even a supporting actor.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So let me ask you this:
Yeah.
Did the show make a miscalculation by only casting young actors in Tolkien's world? Because the best of the best turned out to be a seasoned actor with a lifetime of emotion
Interesting
to work
point.
with.
That's an interesting point.
And
well,
also,
no,
most of the cast are unknowns. Yes, they've had bit pieces in Mandalorian, and Morfit's done some indie films, but pretty much the whole cast, no one is a big celebrated name. Do you think Charles Edwards' age and experience helped him deliver a performance that exceeds everyone else in the show?
Probably, yes. Probably. Yeah. There's no replacement for genuine experience and wisdom. especially in the performing arts. There's no replacement for that, really. You do have an interesting point.
Wisdom in the performance. What does that
Yeah.
mean? You cannot explain it, but you live a life, and you learn these emotions that you can draw from as you're performing. And I think the show, in a future episode we're going to get to, our season review and what where the show is, and we'll do a report card. But I feel like one of the lessons I hope the show has learned from season 2 is go older. Find those actors with the experience, with the history, with more to draw on, because Tolkien's Second Age is heavy. It's heavy. Things are going to get hard. They're going to get religious.
Tragic.
They're going to get philosophical. They're going
super tragic. Yeah.
Super tragic and philosophical and psychological. It only gets darker from here.
Yeah.
And having a cast of seasoned actors with deep wells of emotion to draw from, I honestly feel that we would not... Only Charles Edwards could deliver these reviews and these emotions that we felt.
Yep, I agreed. And to reinforce that, the button lady says older actors, for example, when they brought in Peter Capaldi as the Doctor. That's a great point. Yeah.
It brings they just bring a layers, multiple layers of...
Yes.
I don't know what it is, but it's that...
There's something about that younger actor, Charlie Vickers, who played off of Charles Edwards. The two of them played off each other to an excellent level. It was excellent to watch. And I agree, just to support, a lot of people in the chat said that as well. Charlie Vickers in the same room as Anatar with Celebrimbor, Mr. Edwards and Mr. Vickers together, the two Charlies, worked at this heightened level. It was excellent work.
And TD Matthew Tarum brings up an extra point. The age of Charles Edwards allowed him to bring out a very un-elvish time ticking. He sees the rings as a last chance of salvation, to put his name as a craftsman. Just the visual of an older man saying time is ticking on my legacy, it wouldn't have hit as hard with a younger actor.
Yeah, indeed. Otaku Senpai says, physically, I think Charles Edwards would have been better cast as Gil-galad, the High King. Let's talk about the High King. I would really like for them to give him more to do. I mean, Gil-galad should have nothing more to do. On.
I don't know what it is about this High King that you guys keep freaking out about. You guys have been talking about Gil-galad for 25 years. I have no frame of reference. I'm just a casual fan. I have no frame of reference what his significance is. So I haven't seen anything with Gil-galad that makes me like, oh, I want to see more yet. I don't know what his purpose in life is, and the fact that we've wasted so much screen time in the limited 16 hours of the first 2 seasons with characters that haven't had much to do. Gil-galad is one of those characters without much to do.
Yeah, that's why we keep saying they should have 10 episodes or more instead of just 8. So that we can have these characters
Amazon,
do
you
more.
Have all the money in the world. Jeff Bezos made a $1.6 billion today on Prime Day for his personal fortune. You have enough money.
That's a good point.
Give us
Prime
more
Day
episodes.
Has earned them. Yeah, they earned a lot with Prime Day.
Give us more episodes.
They should. They should have at least 10 episodes. Hey, let's go back in time when Star Trek The Next Generation had 24 episodes a year.
That's too much. I don't like going back to Star Trek because I'm like, where do I start? And you're like, well, there's some good episodes, bad episodes. And I look at these seasons of 24 episodes. I'm like, no, this is too much. I don't even want to start this. Cliff, talk to me about...
oh, you're hilarious.
Talk to me about
it's
this.
It's true. AO says Numenor needs screen time. Yeah, in all of Season 2, an outright complaint, an obvious critical complaint, is that the Numenorian storyline got short shrift this season.
Short shrift. No,
And
it's just terrible. That like the whole
I wouldn't
conceit
say
of
that.
Numenor
I
is
wouldn't say it was
off base. It's
terrible.
not terrible.
It was
It's
just
off
short shrift.
base. No, it's not just short shrift. It's off
Mm,
base. We're we're
okay.
we're way off base. We're on a lead runner about to get thrown out. Numenor is half. It's not even half baked. You didn't even put it in the oven, right? Let them
You
cook.
mean it's just
No one's cooking on Numenor right now. You got a sous chef over there that's spinning whipped cream. Numenor, it
that's
was such
funny.
a waste for these first 2 seasons. They should have just saved Numenor for a dedicated third season. I don't know why we're even doing Numenor stuff right now. Nothing there is good,
There
and
need
definitely
well, no.
nothing is great.
What was there was very interesting. It was very interesting, but it was not complete. It felt like it was truncated. That's the word I'm looking for. The Numenorian storyline seemed to me personally to be way truncated, and it needed to be more fully fleshed out. It really did.
It just need to be cooked, and they're not cooking with it. Uh, Cliff, talk to me about Daily Beast saying Sauron on Lord of the Rings is officially TV's greatest villain. That's a bold
Wow.
statement from
Who
the Daily
who reported
Beast.
that?
The
Who
Daily
reported that? Daily Beast?
Beast.
I tell you what,
Not
that's
the
a
Daily
testament.
Wire. That's a whole different
No, the Daily
website.
Beast. Thank you. No, thank you for making that clarification. How about that?
Do you
Anatar.
do you agree?
Yes, because nobody has been. I don't want to use an F word, but nobody has been mind screwing the innocent, no, protagonists as well as Anatar has been screwing with the minds of all these people. Talking about Merdania, talking about Galadriel, talking about obviously Celebrimbor, and everybody has just been mentally screwed over by Anatar and his flawless machinations. It was exceptionally good. Exceptionally good.
He was.
But then again, I haven't seen Fallout. I haven't seen some of these other shows. So I don't know exactly who is the greatest villain in TV.
I
You
like
guys are
Walton
going to forgive
Goggins,
me.
but
I haven't even seen season 2 of The House of the Dragon. Not yet. So I can't qualitatively say, because maybe there's some other
I
villains I need to
have,
check
and I
out.
will qualitatively say season 2 of
Yeah.
Rings of Power is better than season 2 of House of the Dragon.
Oh, okay. All right. I haven't seen it yet, but okay.
There you go.
All
Cliff,
right.
here's some stuff that Rings of Power has posted this week. Um, you sought Haladriel. I gave it to you. That's officially
Now,
from the Rings of
I'm
Power, the blue check mark.
this is what I'm going to be in total agreement with Higgy baby in the live chat. It might be a little bit off-putting that the official marketing account is really pushing the Halbrand Galadriel ship. They're pushing it in a super official way in all their marketing channels,
Look at
and
that.
a
Another
lot of a
tweet.
lot of people love it. Look, our good friend Caitlin, Tea with Tolkien, and lots of other wonderful friends of ours really love the Haladriel ship. In my own individual opinion, I'm not on that ship. I don't want what Justin wants, which is Riverdale in Rivendell. I don't want soap opera contrivances in a romance or the suggestion. I do not even want the suggestion of a romance between Haladriel and Haladriel, because now they're inseparable. Now the ship is sailing and the official marketing is making it sail. And I think that the show succeeds on other levels. There are many other pieces of the show that work better than giving us this, and I'll use the word contrivance yet again, and forgive me, but the whole thing that Galadriel's husband, Celeborn, has been unnecessarily kept off stage this entire time. Oh, and there were weird rumors that we heard about Celeborn's sudden appearance. That never happened. Season 2 is now over, and there has not been any weird, magical, sudden appearance of her missing husband. But I really believe the narrative would have been better handled if if Galadriel had been with Celeborn the whole time, and let's say that she had a different interest in Halbrand. If Halbrand, Sauron, was presenting himself as wanting to be redeemed and wanting to correct the errors of his ways, if it wasn't a romantic connection, it would have been way more interesting for me to have Galadriel have that weird relationship with Halbrand, because Galadriel could have been like, oh, maybe Sauron could possibly go on a rehabilitation tour. And as a platonic relationship, Galadriel might have gotten real close with Halbrand, discovered that he was Sauron, and then realized she could have had a place in all the great history of Middle-earth to help Sauron mend his evil ways. And if her husband, Celeborn, had been there in the story the whole time, and if we'd have known that relationship was there, solid state, high fidelity, if we had had that there the whole time, then we would have appreciated that Galadriel was on a healing mission, because that ties in with her character. She brings healing and a quality of uplifting someone from being in despair and caught up in darkness and lifting people out of darkness towards the light. And the whole thing with, Galadriel's relationship with Sauron, if it had not been couched in romance, rather if it had been couched in the idea of personal, difficult redemption, that Sauron was just on the edge of discovering for himself. And then Galadriel would have been, let me add some uplift. Let me help you in your motivation. That would have been a far more interesting ship to have Halbrand and Galadriel work it out that way. That would have been way more interesting than the unnecessary removal of Celeborn and the unnecessary insertion point of a romantic subtext. But that's just one man's opinion. That's just me saying
What do you
that.
think of this tweet right here?
What?
It says, Galadriel searched for Sauron for centuries. But when it came to her missing husband, she was just like, I never saw him again after that.
Yep.
Now who sounds like her real husband?
Isn't that an interesting point? Wow, that's an interesting point.
That's in the lore of the show, folks.
Yeah. Yep, it is.
That comment really gets at the heart of all this. Galadriel searched for Sauron for centuries, but when it came to talking about her missing husband, who supposedly isn't dead, I disagree, he's dead, she said, she was just like, I never saw him again after that. Versus hunting for Sauron, even while he's a blob. He's a literal blob of goo, and Galadriel is hunting for him. Okay? That says everything. Cliff, I think I told you last season. I said the sooner you can get on board with Galadriel, the better time you're going to have with this show. You
did say that.
I
but
said
I would have gotten.
The core
I'm telling
conceit, the core conceit of the show is Galadriel.
Yeah, I get it. But the core conceit is that when Galadriel is speaking to Frodo in the Fellowship of the Ring, and she says, he knows my mind and I know his, right? And the showrunners have used that as a linchpin to support the logic of this whole storyline. Yes, I hear you, Kat. Yes, Kat, I hear you.
Galadriel is the core concept of the whole show. And I said 5 years ago, I said Riverdale and Rivendell, half jokingly, but the fact that the writers took that and ran with it and are actually giving us that show of young Galadriel dating her way around Middle-earth, it's pretty incredible for me. I just wish the execution was a little better. But I'm on board with all this. Galadriel should be dating. She should have kissed Brimby. She should have kissed Arondir. If she's gonna kiss Elrond, That's a whole different thing, and that's very
No,
much Rivendell. But
I agree with the
Haladriel is
chat saying
core.
that. No, go ahead. Please finish. Please finish, please.
I was gonna say, Galadriel is so core to the concept of the show that by stabbing her with Morgoth's crown, and the implication that Sauron will craft the one ring of power to rule them all by melting down Morgoth's crown with Galadriel's blood, forever connecting Morgoth, Galadriel, and Sauron together in the One Ring. The One Ring is a piece of Galadriel. That is the core concept of the
Oh
show.
Lord.
And the sooner you get on board with this Haladriel stuff, Cliff, the sooner you're going to really appreciate it, because I'm having a great time with Galadriel. And my biggest complaint about season 2 is we had nothing for Haladriel the entire season. We get 10 minutes at the end of the season for Haladriel. As a Haladriel fan, as one that truly believed in this from the get-go, this feels like the amount of screen time that they gave the making of the 3 Elven Rings last season. You know how we thought at the end of last season that it's complete crap that we only got 10 minutes of ring making in a show called Rings of Power in season 1? That's how I feel about Haladriel. If that relationship is this important to the show, which it is, and as we've just established, I believe the One Ring will be crafted with Galadriel's blood, then why did you waste all of our time and give us 10 minutes of what we wanted? Commit to the bit. McPain, I'm begging you, commit to it.
Okay. All right, that's enough.
You've
That's enough.
divided this fandom from season 1 by not committing to it. Just be who you want to be. This show is Haladriel. That is the core concept of the show.
Thank you. Yes, Button Lady is correct. You need your meds. Justin, you need to take your meds.
I'm sorry. You guys have to get on board. Get on board.
Borrow my EpiPen?
The sooner you get on board, the sooner you're going to really have fun with the show. Haladriel is the core concept of the entire series.
You are hilarious. You know what? It doesn't work for everyone. Justin, you may actually find yourself in the minority here. So look at it this way. Again, Galadriel and her relationship with Halbrand, Sauron, really would have been more interesting if it was about him wanting to redeem himself. They touched upon it again briefly at the opening episode of season 2. Did they not? Yes, they did. If Galadriel's main interest in Sauron would be rehabilitation and redeeming him from being absolute evil, what we'd call neutral evil, then I think that relationship would have caught the imagination of fans in a far more interesting way. Now,
look, there's many better ways of doing it. I agree that it is not being executed well. It isn't, but it's there, and it's the core construct of the
interesting?
whole
Yeah, it is
show.
there because even Charlotte Brandstrom is being quoted in the press as saying that she was in love, and I don't buy that. I don't want to buy that. I don't want that to be there.
Told you. I'm telling you.
The director
you don't
told
want to
you that
listen
it's there.
to. You don't want to listen to the director of the show. I'm telling you, get on board, dude. Just get on board. This train has been moving.
I don't like it.
Yeah, I know you don't like it.
Going down the tracks, and I don't like it. But guess what? That's over now. The crawling chaos is correct because he said in the chat that it is over. And even in the show, in episode 8, we heard Galadriel say, "The door is shut," and she's done with him. Hello, crawling chaos. You are correct.
How many people
Galadriel is
make
done.
up and
She's
break
done
up
with
and
him.
make up? Do you know
Done
how many
with him.
people
Nope.
live lives
with
of
him.
make up and break up and make up and break up? That's just a normal part of relationships, dude. You make up, you break up, you break up, you make up.
Nope.
Yes.
No, the guy.
Yes.
Sauron is the enemy and is responsible for the death of so many of her people, her relatives specifically, and the cruelty. As unfamiliar as you might be with the stories of the Silmarillion, the extent to which Sauron executed nightmare after nightmare, cruelty after cruelty against people and important characters in all the high history of Middle-earth and Beleriand and all these things. Forgiveness takes an age. Let's use the quote from the Entwife. Okay? Let's use the quote from this show.
Great
The
quote.
Entwife
Let me
says,
ask you this.
forgiveness takes an age. And if the story was going to really hook the fandom, the hardcore fandom that wants to have, more fidelity to Tolkien in that regard, in that small regard, which to some people is a bigger regard. But I know that I got more comfortable with Rings of Power because I just sat back and I said, okay, they're going to do their own thing. No matter what, it's just a pastiche of it's an amalgam of different pieces of Tolkien storytelling, ideas, motifs, symbolism, some narrative bits, and it's all put together in an amalgam. Some of it is incongruous and some of it does not work. Some of it, a lot of it, is starting to work better, and it's getting more and more effective
And we'll get into
as
that
it goes
in
along.
future episodes. But
But
when it comes to this,
it really would have benefited the show if the relationship with Sauron and Galadriel was not about romance, was about uplifting evil
it's
and
still
taking
a
Sauron out of the
relationship.
shadow and uplifting him to try to redeem
But they didn't
himself.
do that. They gave us a relationship. They didn't do that.
I'm telling you, from season 1, it was Sauron who should have been on the boat, and Sauron, approaching Valinor,
But
suddenly jumps ship
yes,
doesn't want to face
agree.
judgment. That
I
would have been
agree.
far more interesting.
Look,
I'm still going to hold to that. I still
I
hold
agree,
to that.
but that's not the show we got. Look, guys,
But
I'm
it's not the show we got.
Out
But
of
yeah,
thin,
okay.
thin air. I am reading the show
Okay.
for what it is. I'm not looking for subtext in the show. I'm not trying to connect the dots between the books and the show. The show,
Okay.
as it's presented,
Yes.
is what I am seeing. So
Okay. Yes.
And if the director says it, so
Yeah.
let me ask you this, Cliff.
Well,
Should
it is
the
what it is.
showrunners
Yes.
should the showrunners maintain silence on this issue, or do you think it hurts or helps if they just come out and say, "Hell yeah, we're all about Haladriel. It's a core concept of the show." Or do you
The showrunners should be welcome here to come and sit with us and talk about these very details, because I want to talk with them and I can pick their brains and learn something. In fact, I'm going to send a couple of questions to Varking Runesong, and maybe he will filter it out and pick one of my questions to ask about this important developmental process of getting these characters to work together on a large-scale storytelling arc. I would love to hear their opinion. And hello, Mr. JD, Mr. Patrick, please realize you are always welcome on our show. You are always welcome to come and talk with us.
This is a safe space.
It is a very safe and comfortable space where we can have what you're listening to right now, a mentally vigorous understanding and debate.
I'll turn off my
that
mic.
brings
You know what?
us
I'll
to
just
a better
produce that
place.
episode. If McPain come on, Cliff,
It
you
would
can
be
have the
so
floor.
great to
I
talk.
will just be behind the scenes if that happens.
No, I mean, but there's an established group of people, and I will point again as a great reference that our dear, dear friend, Caitlin, Tea with Tolkien, is the deepest lore master of them all. She's amazing. She knows her stuff. Every little syllable of
Sure,
Tolkien
get on
lore,
with it. What do you think?
she knows it. And yet she's still much more appreciative than I am about the Halbrand Galadriel thing.
Because
So
it's the
there are
core
a lot of-
concept of the show. I don't know what you're missing.
There's a lot of fans
I
who
don't know
do
what
love
you
it.
guys are missing.
They do love it.
All right.
I don't.
Final
I
thing
don't
that
love
we
it.
haven't talked about, Cliff.
I find
Gandalf.
it curious. I find it very curious. Oh,
Gandalf.
Grand Elf. Yes, let's talk about the Grand Elf for a second.
Just real quick. Just
Okay.
make it quick. I can't. and I absolutely am disgusted that we don't have a name for the second wizard. And you're gonna and the showrunners
isn't that
have
weird?
created. No, it's not
That's
weird.
weird. He doesn't have a name.
It's
He doesn't have a name.
intentional that the showrunners,
the Dark Wizard.
the showrunners have told Amazon that, hey, we're increasing engagement on the show for the next 2 years by not giving fans the answer to the name of the wizard. I don't buy this idea that they don't know what the wizard's name yet. Guys,
Wow.
we're going to have a lot better time if you just tell us the name of these characters. Stop mystery boxing everything. What a waste of
I
my
agree.
time.
I
It's
absolutely
Saruman.
agree.
Jeff Bezos did not pay $1 billion to not have the two most famous wizards in the history of fantasy. I'm sorry you guys want blue wizards. Cliff, you
We
were
do
like,
want blue
that better
wizards.
not be Gandalf. Or Matt, Nerd of the Rings, was like, that better not be Gandalf. And you were like, these are blue wizards. There's no way that's not
We were
Saruman and
all
Gandalf.
on, yeah, we were all on, me, Matt, Nerd of the Rings, we were on Team
Tolkien
Blue Wizards.
Professor,
That's true.
everybody. I bet you
Yep.
guys all, and you guys owe me
Yep.
money because I told you those wizards are Gandalf and Saruman. Jeff Bezos did not spend $1 billion to not use the two most famous of wizards. And it
Well,
frustrates me that it's insulting to our intelligence as fans
yeah.
to keep
But
us
it is-
guessing like this. And the
it's-
Gandalf thing being paid off after 16 hours? 16 hours of our valuable time to finally give us the name? I didn't like it. I didn't like how it was executed. I didn't like the result. And why does Gandalf suddenly know all the words to the song?
Because he's probably been hearing them sing it for a long time.
Why didn't they
While
show
they
that in
wandered
the
and
show?
They showed it
You
in
know
season
what?
one. They showed it in season one. He was
What?
with them while Poppy was singing the
No,
Wandering
he sings
Day.
Tom Bombadil's song. He
Oh,
sings.
well, he'd been hanging around with Tom and
Well,
heard him
we didn't
sing
see it in the
quite a
show.
lot.
We didn't see it.
Yeah, well, I will agree, and a lot of people in the chat room also agree with you, Justin, that no mystery boxing is needed anymore. The whole concept of mystery boxing any of the characters should have been abandoned completely.
Tolkien
And
never
here,
wrote mysteries.
here's something interesting. Matt, Nerd of the Rings, just published on his YouTube channel a really excellent video. It's only 10 minutes long, and it discusses the earliest journey of Gandalf to Middle-earth. And it talks about some of these alternate texts in the History of Middle-earth series where Professor Tolkien really did toy around with the idea that Gandalf had an early mission in Middle-earth that brought him there years, centuries, many centuries earlier. And he might not have a memory of every time he visits Middle-earth. I recommend everybody go check out the channel for Nerd of the Rings and take a look at that YouTube video he put up. It's an interesting discussion.
But the real thing that all the fans are talking about is
this is a cute cartoon.
Corey
This is cute.
Olsen, Tolkien professor, claiming
Yes.
that there is no canon in the Tolkien Legendarium.
All right. Well, we do need to talk about that.
Can you unpack that for a second?
Yeah. Well, it might take a second. Yeah, we do need to unpack that.
All right. Well, before you unpack that, let me get you
I've got it
feedback
here.
on this one thing. Hot Wraith Hands says, I am a bit disappointed we didn't get at least one cool moment with Galadriel doing something sorcerous. I deserve it after all the dopey Dol Guldur stuff in The Hobbit. And T. with Tolkien reminds us they kept hinting that we would get Dark Galadriel when she first put on her ring and in the marketing of season 2. And then it simply never happened. I have no idea what they were hinting at there. Cliff, are you disappointed? First off, were you expecting Sorcerer Galadriel to finally start showing up?
Do you know what? I'm going to say this out loud for the first time. I get a funny feeling, and it's just occurred to me now, after decades and decades of familiarity with Peter Jackson's films. Is it possible that when we see Dark Galadriel exposing that much intense power, is Peter Jackson showing her in the unseen world? Is that the way that she would look as if she were in the unseen world, and that's the way Frodo perceives her, and later on in the Hobbit film, that is how Elrond and Saruman perceive her, because she is showing herself in her greatest power from being in the unseen world. And that would mean, by suggestion, that's how she looks when the ring wraiths are visible in the unseen world. Maybe that's what Dark Galadriel is her power emanating from her presence in the unseen world, which is going to be more powerful as a statement against Sauron. And that's why she looks like that in the Hobbit film. And that's why she looks like that when tempted by the ring in the Fellowship of the Ring. So that might be possible, but I'm glad that the T-ROP show did not do that. I'm grateful they did not
You're
do that.
glad they
That
didn't do that.
I'm
Interesting.
glad they did not do that. It might have confused things, perhaps. But let's go a step further, um, and let's talk about Galadriel's temptation by the One Ring is not the same thing as putting on the good, really good, not touched by Sauron elven rings. Narya, Nenya, and Vilya were never touched or affected by Sauron. So maybe it is inappropriate for her to put it on and suddenly be manifest in that powerful shape of her being in the unseen realm. So I just got this idea. It just occurred to me just now. I'm talking 25 years late. I'm getting this idea for the first time, but it might be helpful in looking at it that way. But Justin, there's no way I would have thought it uh, narratively appropriate or narratively correct to show her turn dark at the presence of Nenya being put on her finger. I don't think that would have worked at all.
Okay.
Um,
Well, so
but yeah,
unpack what Corey Olson. So Rings of Power. First of all, Amazon
yes,
Prime Video brought in Tolkien professor Corey Olson for official
yep,
marketing videos. So if you go to the official channels, you'll see Varking and the Tolkien professor in conversation. In that conversation, which has set the fandom ablaze, the Tolkien professor claims that because Tolkien was rewriting his stories to the ends of his days, and we've talked about this a lot, he was rewriting Galadriel until his dying days, that there actually is no locked for sure canon. There is no canon to the books that is completely locked. And Cliff, you had a perspective on this.
I was given a perspective by a prominent Tolkien scholar who has worked with us at the OneRing.net for years. And I'm going to share with you some of his thoughts. Dr. Corey Olson has been taking a lot of flack in some circles. Example, from a very shrill Forbes senior contributor and YouTuber Eric Kane for his statement that in that video, quote, first thing to specify is that there's no such thing really as canon in Tolkien. Tolkien's ideas were ever evolving. Now, here's what this Tolkien scholar told me, and I would love for you folks to dial in real close and listen to his take on this. Corey Olson isn't wrong, even if his simplified statement really isn't entirely satisfactory. First of all, this usage of the word canon, though it nowadays has a dictionary definition and indeed a whole Wikipedia article, it's pretty ill-defined. Quote, widely considered to be official or authoritative, unquote, is pretty nebulous. Maybe some history, at least, here is interesting and can enlighten us a bit. A little bit of research suggests that the word was first used in this sense in a 1911 essay about Sherlock Holmes, in which the author only accepted as canon the works written by Doyle, only written by Doyle, compared to other stage plays and other films, or the pastiches that were already starting to appear at that time. And it began to use, that word canon began to be used more commonly, in quotes at first, but not for long, in fan writings about Star Trek. Perhaps the very first popular fan universe with a multiplicity of authors and sporadic continuity errors. All right. But there's also something to be said about L. Frank Baum and the Oz books and some other inconsistencies that you'd also share with Arthur Conan Doyle and his Sherlock Holmes books. But naturally, fans especially used the word canon with respect to fan fiction to differentiate them, okay? This is both by contrast, but also as the frame for a story. Quote, I'm writing this story against the canon set by the original and also against the animated series. And that's the way persons who were writing fan fiction could differentiate themselves from canon. That's the way they used that word back at the time. And this is like in the 60s when Star Trek, the original series, first came out. Now, I think it is a poor idea, this Tolkien scholar goes on to say. I think it's a poor idea to use canon in any serious criticism. There are three problems. First is that Wikipedia notwithstanding, everyone has different ideas about what canon means. It's not like there was a Council of Nicaea or a religious organization that can authoritatively tell us what is or is not canon in the Bible. And remember, Tolkien's work is not religious scripture. Let us keep that in mind. The fact that we so frequently hear phrases nowadays, quote, well, I don't consider unfinished tales to be canon. Or even more revealingly, we hear things like, my headcanon says that Moria was reestablished in Gimli's lifetime. It strongly suggests that canon is very weak as a concept for establishing authority. The second problem is that it has very little practical significance. It is just a shorthand for saying that some new thing, a new thing that is manifest, a new movie sequel, a new fan fiction, is going to be consistent with some existing thing. Now, this may be interesting to lawyers for the holders of intellectual property rights, but it is, in the end, of very little use in the real world. Finally, nebulous as this word is, it is nevertheless loaded with connotations and associations, including the religious ones, that make it unsuitable for academic or other serious discussions. Quote, canon good against canon bad is not the way we need to go, but this is where we are. Even in the video game derived word, lore is better in this respect. In the specific case of J.R.R. Tolkien, I think we have a unique situation. And now we're going to talk about his son, Christopher Tolkien. Dial in with me, please, ladies and gentlemen. Because Christopher Tolkien's tremendous work in bringing us Tolkien's manuscripts and editing his drafts, editing his private essays, all of his unfinished stories, because of that, Tolkien's legendarium contains so much more than was published in his lifetime. And of course, much of this is contradictory. Much of it is. And it's sometimes evolutionary. Christopher Tolkien acknowledged this in his redaction of the published Silmarillion. In the foreword, this is what Christopher Tolkien wrote. A complete consistency, either within the compass of the Silmarillion itself, or between the Silmarillion and other published writings of my father, is not to be looked for. Let me say that again. Christopher Tolkien said a complete consistency is not to be looked for and could only ever be achieved, if at all, at heavy and needless cost. Moreover, my father came to conceive the Silmarillion as a compilation, a compendious narrative made long afterwards from sources of great diversity, poems and annals and oral tales, looking at how the hobbits kept track of their own storyline in the Red Book and how that Lord of the Rings story is from a hobbit's point of view. Now, let me get back to Christopher Tolkien's quote. Made long afterwards that had survived in an age-long tradition. And in this conception has indeed its parallel in the actual history of the book. For a great deal of earlier prose and earlier poetry does underlie it, and it is to some extent a compendium in fact and not only in theory, unquote. So that's what Christopher said. So my Tolkien scholar friend, anonymous as he remains, he goes on to say, he's pretty much saying something like Corey Olsen is saying now, that there is no canon here. Middle-earth is a place we know only through legends, and there are different traditions in these legends. Bilbo's translations from the Elvish, the Thane and the Thane's book, and so on, that cannot necessarily be reconciled. And, of course, some elements of the published Silmarillion and original writings partly due to Guy Gavriel Kay's input. And that was Gavriel Kay giving a lot of input that later on Christopher Tolkien really regretted later on. So Tolkien himself was prepared, and you guys have to keep this in mind. It's true. The professor himself was prepared to completely undermine the cosmological underpinnings of his own work. Look at the story of the sun and the moon as described in Myths Transformed or in Morgoth's Ring, the History of Middle-earth series. It really would have been a huge change. Even the idea that the morning star is actually the light of the Silmaril born by Erendil in Vingalot would have been disrupted by the professor doing this reworking of his own material. But we see this disruptive idea in the 1966 revision of The Hobbit. Excellent point. In which we read that the elves, quote, lingered in the twilight of our sun and moon, replacing the original line, lingered in the twilight before the raising of the sun and moon. So, is this different order with the sun existing before the awakening of the elves? Is that now canon? Everyone who thinks so, raise your hand. Okay, this ran on for a while. Too long, didn't read, as the kids say. My point is that criticizing Dr. Corey Olsen is silly. First, because the whole idea of canon is vague and unhelpful, like woke. The whole term of woke is very vague and unhelpful, the way that it has been used and re-abused and consistently abused by different people for the points of just scoring political tribalism, which is not helpful in any regard. But also because Tolkien's Legendarium is unique in form as well as content. His own story, Niggle, Great Tree, with many branches and versions. Some rejected and painted over, others elaborated to full flower. Tolkien himself conceived the legends as a compendium of tales from different sources. In such a creation, the notion of a canon is, at the very least, an oversimplification of the actual exceedingly complex textual situation. There you go. But my friend, as he closes this letter, he does say that, and he's a Tolkien scholar, believe me, one of the very first one in America to work with LOSFUS, the Los Angeles Science Fiction Society. Rings of Power is still quite a mess, though, and asserting that when Gandalf says that he does not go east, he meant Mordor, cannot hope to justify a grand elf who arrives via meteor in the Wilderlands with amnesia in the Second Age, and then he learns how to use his powers from Tom Bombadil, who is vacationing in Rhûn at the time. Dear heavens, even typing this feels like reading Fellowship of the King again. So my Tolkien scholar friend he's very, very critical of the Rings of Power for different reasons, but he thinks it's completely unnecessary to be so critical of Corey Olsen saying what he said about canon. So isn't this fascinating? I really appreciate his input. And when he wrote me this letter, the headline of his letter was, "What's canon, eh, precious? What's canon?" So put your Gollum voice in there. So anyways, this is very interesting. It's really interesting to share all these thoughts with you. Justin, I don't know if you're still there, but you can come on back to our show.
Everybody wants to read that, Cliff. I hope you post it on the main website tomorrow because
yeah, I will.
Everybody wants
I think
to
it's fascinating.
Read that. It is fascinating.
And you know, that comes from a professional point of view. And
yeah, we get it. So post it tomorrow and give all the context.
Good insight.
Before we let you guys go, I wanted to let you know that search for this podcast, House of R. Go to your favorite podcast app. I use Apple Podcasts. Go to your favorite podcast app and search for House of R. It is on Spotify. You can go to Spotify and search for House of R. That features our old pal, Joanna Robinson, friend of the show. She's been on the show a couple times. Joanna Robinson, from who is just a wonderful person. As you can see, she points it out that it's 3 hours and 52 minutes. Yes, it's a 4-hour long podcast on the episode 8 of Rings of Power. I listened to the whole thing. You don't need to listen to all 4 hours, because the first 3 hours are just a recap and their opinions on episode 8 of Rings of Power. They did a 3-hour breakdown of episode 8 of Rings of Power in podcast form. But the final hour, the last 55 minutes, has an exclusive interview with J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay. And that's why I need you guys to go listen to this on Spotify or your favorite podcast app. Spotify is the primary platform. And you can listen to the final hour. The last 55 minutes includes an hour-long discussion with J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay. Interestingly enough, a lot of fans are commenting and responding to things that Payne and McKay have said. Cliff, I want your opinion on this. J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay say, we worked really hard on this season in post-production. And despite what some folks may say, including folks on this particular show, we obsess about the pacing and how to have every storyline in the proper proportions. We talk about pacing endlessly. Fans have their own opinions on this, including Muriel's wife here, who says, I do not deny that they worked very hard. I'm completely sure about that, and I think they did a good job considering the magnitude of the task. But every storyline did not have a proper proportion. I'm sorry. This does feel disingenuous to call out legitimate fans that have legitimate concerns about the pacing of the show, and McPayne saying, despite what some folks might say, we obsess about pacing. We talk about it endlessly. Cliff, your thoughts on pacing and their reaction to
We
us.
obsess about pacing and how to have every storyline in the proper proportions. We talk about it endlessly. Yep, it's true. I agree with Muriel's wife in the tweet, who says every storyline did not have a proper proportion. And all you have to do is look at the Numenorian storyline, and that settles that discussion. that settles the point.
All right. Well,
I
that's
mean,
Torn
not
Tuesday.
to hold on.
That's it. That's a perfect point. That is a perfect point to end on.
I'm not going to detract. I will not detract from the significant improvements that J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay and Charlotte Brandstrom and the other directors and the great post-production team. I'm not going to, detract from the significant improvements from season 1
the creative
up to
efforts
season
in
2.
the show are top notch, bar none.
Yeah,
but the
but
showrunners
still.
are in charge. Remember
The
when we
showrunners
talked?
are in charge, but still.
Remember when we talked to several Oscar-winning cinematographers here, and they all said at the end of the day, the showrunner's in charge. The showrunner makes all the decisions. It is the showrunner
that's right.
who's in charge of the pacing, and yet,
That's true.
It's not hitting. And you can't say, well, fans aren't just getting it. You have to make a piece of content. You have to make an experience that is of the moment, that we all can enjoy and appreciate in our own time, in this time that you are publishing it.
Okay. Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah.
That is just one tiny comment in that hour-long House of R podcast. That is just one tiny comment that fans are responding to. There are many other comments that Cliff, you and I need to unpack, because if we're going to play this game and the showrunners are going to say certain things in public like they did last time, we're going to have to respond to it. So there you go.
Interesting. Button Lady says proper proportion does not mean equal proportion. Excellent point, Suzanne. Very excellent point, Suzanne. It's great to have the Button Lady with us in the live chat. You guys are the best audience ever. So lovely to have you here. And as we close this episode of Torn Tuesday, thank you for spending another 2 hours and 15 minutes with us to have this really. Oh, I'll tell you what, Justin, this has been some of the most invigorating and delightful debate around the show that we've had. This is the height of excellence for a fan community to be able to talk and work out the rough stuff without any weird toxicity, without anybody being demeaned, and no diminishment of anybody's ideas. That's very healthy, yes. And I think the success of this program in our hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes is supportive of that point. This is a healthy fandom, and you guys are the living proof. I cannot appreciate you guys as much as I should, and I like half of you half as well as you deserve. But I love you folks for being in this chat with us. Thank you to the Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Discord chat coming here to join us. And this is very exciting to see so many familiar friends, wonderful folks in the chat.
Here's
really
episodes
wonderful.
I want to do. I haven't talked with Cliff about this yet, but I think we're gonna wait a few weeks to do a whole season recap. We're gonna let this one bake. I want to revisit the entire season and just marathon it over the weekend in a few weeks' time. But I think in the meantime, I think what we can do, maybe next week, Cliff, if you're open to it, let's take a look at all the leaks from season 2 and see if the leaks were accurate. I think we had a good time last time during season 1 of seeing what leaks panned out and what leaks were total bunk. And I think that's going to be a fun show next week. So next week, we're going to look at all of the pre-release leaks for season 2 and whether those leaks were accurate.
There were some big ones. There were some big, crazy leaks that did not manifest in the season at all. We did not ever see the music of the Ainur, the Ainulindale. We didn't see it. And it was heavily promoted in the rumors. So that didn't happen. And that's another reason why we call it, Green Dragon Gossip, because we have to do that segment of the show separately. Oh, yes, that's right. And yeah, you know what? Higgy Baby and Katie, we're going to get a Miyazaki marathon up and running. That will be very exciting. I'm so down for that.
You guys are getting way ahead of us. I am preparing to justify some of the leaks and attach them to other things in the show. I think it's not just a flat true or false, was wrong or was right. I think people involved in the production of the show had incomplete information. And maybe the Sauron with a baby rumor was because there were orc babies. And remember the controversy that we had for a whole freaking week about orc babies and orc marriages and orc relationships, and we had to dive into the lore, and Tolkien said that they procreated like any other being in Middle Earth.
Like any other mortal being on, or like any other being.
I think some of the leaks were intentionally misdirection, but hinted at something that was going to be controversial in the show so we could prepare for it. And the baby thing is one of those things. But anyway, we're going to unpack all of that next week. Cliff, final question from the chat room. Which Spice Girl should be in Season 3 of Rings of Power?
The Spice Girl who should be in Season 3 of the Rings of Power. And these are all from Dune. These are all Bene Gesserit sisters. So when we say Spice Girls, we're not talking about the pop band. We're talking about Frank Herbert's Dune. So the one Spice Girl who should be in Season 3 is Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohiam. There she is. Right there. That's the Spice Girl. That's who should be there. Hey, Frank Herbert fans, I know you're out there. Dune fans. Oh, before we leave, I give a strong recommendation to the YouTube content creator In Deep Geek. He's got a new video that just came out that's very interesting. And it is, I was just
I'm
going to,
nervous. He's been
it's
very
so,
vocal anti Rings of Power lately.
has he? No,
Oh
he did,
yeah.
he,
He's
well, he
been
did,
I'm surprised you're promoting him. I was not
well, no,
aware.
there was an episode that he did that just touched upon what we were talking about. And it was, hold on, let me tell you what it was.
Well, anyway, look
Uh,
up In Deep Geek. We don't need to search for it, but that's our show for today.
oh, we do. I'm
Cliff's
going to
gonna.
show you. Here
No,
it
we're
is.
not.
We're going to close the show. Oh, it was Do Orcs Have Families? He has a 8-minute video that
We
just came out
just
4
talked
days
about
ago.
it in 8 seconds.
And
Thank
it's
you very
about
much.
Do Orcs Have Families? Take a look
Our
at that.
shows are long, but you don't need 8 minutes to settle an 8-second debate.
Hey, we'll talk it later. Hey, no, you guys do that on your own. Who did this little Casper? Celebrimbor, the friendly Casper. Who did this friendly Casper the ghost? Who is the artist who did this? It's really cute.
Smittenzy.
That's so fun. All right. We're going to say goodnight, everybody. Thank you. I like to get different points of view from different people all the time, whether I agree with them or not. I really like to have lots of fresh ideas around me. What a lovely show, and it's made all the more better by you guys being with us and chatting with us. It's been really fantastic. And now we say goodnight. And good luck, like we do at the end of every show. You want to check us out on all social media, look up theonering.net and take out the dot, and then follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And also, please join our Discord and throw in your questions. Can you put that graphic up as we close, Justin? Throw your questions to our moderator of the LOTR on Prime subreddit. His name is Varking. And put your questions to him, and that might be selected by him to be in this extraordinary conversation.
Deadline is tonight.
With showrunners.
Do it right now.
Yep.
He's
JD
capping
Payne
it
and
tonight.
Patrick McKay. Yeah, got to do it tonight. Throw your questions in tonight. And thank you guys for joining us. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at QuickBeam2000. And now we're going to say, like we love to say at the end of every show, join us next Friday. Join us next Tuesday. Sorry about that. It's called Torn Tuesday for a reason. Join us at 5 p.m. Tuesday next week, and we'll be right here for more news, analysis, gossip, and mischief. Please take good care of yourselves. I'm giving a big prayer in my heart and a shout out to all of my family and friends who are in the path of Hurricane Milton. And my thoughts are with all of you. Batten down the hatches, all my cousins and my sisters and my dad and my mom, everybody, batten down the hatches. You guys are going to be all right. All right. And now, to everyone else, please take good care of yourselves and look out for one another. And now we say good night and good luck. Or better yet, buenos noches y buena suerte. Bye, everybody.